Everyone remembers Zira as the evil lioness from The Lion King 2. The one who wanted nothing more than to destroy Simba and take back what in her eyes belonged to Scar. But what if I told you that everything you think you know about Zira is wrong? What if she wasn't actually the monster we all thought she was? What if she was just a broken lioness who had been betrayed, manipulated, and traumatized her entire life? Today, we're going to dive deep into the real story of Zira, and I promise you, after watching this video, you will never look at her the same way again. So, make sure you stay till the end, because what I'm about to tell you will completely change the way you think about Zira. So, let's start from the very beginning. Most people think that Zira was just born evil, but I really think there is so much more to her story than that, because when we look deeper into the theories of her childhood, we see a completely different picture. Now, I know Disney never shows us Zira's childhood in the movies, but there are some really interesting clues that suggest her past was way darker than we ever imagined. And when you piece together these clues, it starts to make sense why she became the lioness we see in The Lion King 2. Because I don't really think that Zira grew up in the Pride Lands. Looking deeper into her past, I think Zira grew up in a place where there wasn't as much peace and harmony as we are used to seeing. Her pride was ruled by her fierce parents, and here's where it gets really interesting. Her abusive father basically tortured her from the moment she could walk. Every day he would push her, hurt her, and fill her mind with anger and fear, but her mother was different. She actually started to feel bad for Zira and would whisper kind words to her when her father wasn't looking. But one day, he found out she was being kind to Zira and he exploded. He got so angry that he killed her. Just think about that for a second. Imagine being a young cub and watching your father kill your mother, the only one that was ever being nice to you. That's the kind of trauma that would break anyone, and I think that's exactly what happened to Zira. From that moment on, she felt nothing but sorrow and hatred. The pride she lived in was too scared of her father to help her, so she was completely alone. But that is not even all of it, because her father still wouldn't leave her alone. Have you ever wondered about that scar on Zira's ear? That little notch that makes her look so mean? Well, I think that scar came from her father. I believe he gave her that mark during one of his angry outbursts, almost like he was branding her with a sign of toughness. Because when you look closely at that notch, it kind of looks familiar, and it made me wonder, where have I seen this before? Do you already have an idea of what I'm talking about? Well, of course, it is an evil lion I'm talking about. I'm talking about the strange lion from Scar's flashback. Now, this might sound crazy, but I really think that strange lion could actually be Zira's father. When you look at them side by side, they have the same red eyes, the same head stripe, and the same ear notch. Plus, we know that this strange lion had an evil mindset and wanted to take over the Pride Lands. Sound familiar? I thought so. But let's get back to young Zira for a moment. She eventually got to the Pride Lands, so young Zira must have managed to escape her father's rule eventually. She runs away, determined to survive on her own, but she's just a cub, completely broken and traumatized. That's not exactly the best foundation for a healthy life, is it? But then, just when things couldn't get any worse for Zira, something happens that she thinks will change everything. She stumbles upon the Pride Lands and meets Scar. Now, from Zira's perspective, this must have felt like a miracle. Here was this powerful lion who was part of the royal family, who had the roar of the elders, and who actually seemed to care about her. According to the Lion Guard, Zira became really good friends with Scar, and he told her all about the roar and how he was the leader of the Lion Guard. To Zira, who had never experienced kindness from a male lion before, this must have felt incredible. Finally, someone who didn't want to hurt her. Someone who actually cared for her and made her feel important. But I think we all know how Scar thinks by now. I don't think he's even capable of caring for someone else besides himself. So I don't think Scar ever truly cared for Zira. I think you guys would probably believe me without even explaining this, but I think it's still important to know why I so strongly believe this is true. Remember in the live-action Lion King, right before Simba returned, Scar was asking Sarabi to be his queen, and this wasn't the first time either. He kept asking her over and over again, even though she kept refusing. Why would he be trying to get with Sarabi if he was supposedly in love with Zira? And it gets even worse when you look at the deleted scenes from the original Lion King. There's this scene where Scar is trying to get Nala to be his queen and create little scars with him. So not only was he not loyal to Zira, but he was actively trying to pair up with other lionesses behind her back. But wait, there's more. In the newest Mufasa movie, we learn that Scar, back when he was called Taka, fell in love with Sarabi the moment he saw her. She was his first love, his dream queen. When Sarabi chose Mufasa instead, it broke Scar's heart and started his hatred for his brother. So even when he was with Zira, I think part of him was still hoping that someday Sarabi would change her mind and be with him. So what does this mean for Zira? Well, I think Scar was using her. He needed cubs to continue his bloodline and secure his legacy, but the lionesses in the Pride Lands all hated him, so he found Zira, this traumatized, broken lioness who was so desperate for love and acceptance that she would believe anything he told her, and Zira fell for it completely. She saw Scar as her savior, the lion who finally gave her the love and respect she'd never had. She became totally devoted to him, ready to do whatever he asked. When they had Nuka together, she thought they were building a real family. But I think even then, Scar was disappointed. Nuka wasn't the strong heir he was hoping for, and I believe that's when he started treating Zira with less respect. I'm not sure if Vitani is his cub, but either way, she doesn't show much affection for him. So I don't think he played a big role in her life. He started to give Zira less attention since she didn't have the strong cubs he was hoping for. But this all changed when Kovu came. Even though Kovu is not really Scar's cub, he saw potential in him that he didn't see in Nuka. Suddenly, Scar was interested in Zira again, but only because she was the mother of his chosen heir. He wasn't loving her for who she was, he was using her to raise the cub he wanted to take over the Pride Lands. So just imagine what Zira went through emotionally. She thought she'd finally found someone who loved her, someone who would never abandon her like everyone else had. She built her entire identity around being Scar's partner and raising his heir. And just then, just when everything seemed perfect, Simba returned and killed Scar. But here's what makes this even more heartbreaking. Zira never knew the truth about how Scar really felt about her. She believed until the day she died that Scar had genuinely loved her. So when Simba defeated him, it wasn't just losing a king to her. It was losing the only lion who had ever made her feel worthy of love. And the trauma didn't stop there. So when Simba told her that Scar was never the true king, she lost it and tried to attack him. But of course, Simba won and banished her to the Outlands. After being banished to the Outlands, Zira threw everything she had into training Kovu. This was her way of honoring Scar's memory and proving that their love had meant something. She raised Kovu with one single purpose: to defeat Simba and restore Scar's legacy. And her plan actually went pretty well, and Kovu grew into a strong lion. But then came another devastating betrayal. Kovu, the cub she had devoted her entire life to training, started questioning everything she taught him. He began to see that maybe Simba wasn't the monster she'd made him out to be, and worst of all, he felt in love with Kiara, Simba's daughter. Now think about this from Zira's perspective. Because of the trauma from her childhood, she probably didn't know how to show love in a healthy way. So when she was training Kovu so harshly, pushing him to be strong and ruthless, she thought she was protecting him. She thought she was making sure he'd never be weak like she had been as a cub. But instead, her harsh methods pushed Kovu away from her. And then came the moment that probably broke Zira's heart completely, when Nuka died trying to prove himself to her. Nuka had spent his whole life feeling rejected and unwanted, desperately trying to get his mother's attention. He knew that Scar had chosen Kovu over him, and he could see that Zira favored Kovu too. So, when he saw his chance to finally prove himself during the ambush on Simba, he took it, and it cost him his life. The guilt and pain Zira must have felt in that moment, losing her firstborn son because she had never been able to show him the love he deserved. And in a moment of anger, she lashed out at Kovu, giving him that scar across his eye, just like her father had given her that ear notch. In that moment, she became the very thing she had run away from as a cub, an abusive parent who hurt her own child. But the betrayals still weren't over. Because when Zira made her final desperate attempt to honor Scar by attacking Simba's pride, even more lions turned against her. First, Kovu chose Kiara's side over hers, then Vitani, her own daughter, decided to make peace with Simba's pride. And finally, all the lionesses she had led for years abandoned her in that moment. Picture yourself in Zira's position just for a moment. Everyone you've ever loved has either died, betrayed you, or turned against you. Your father killed your mother and abused you. The lion you thought loved you was actually just using you. Your son, Nuka, died because you couldn't show him proper love. Your other son and chosen heir rejected everything you taught him. Your daughter, Vitani, chose your enemies over you, and now even your own followers think you're wrong. That's when we get to the final scene where Kiara offers to save Zira from falling off that cliff. Some people think Zira was just being stubborn or evil when she refused help, but I think it was something much sadder than that. I think Zira realized in that moment that there was truly nothing left for her in this world. Scar was gone, Nuka was gone, Kovu and Vitani had chosen new families. She had no pride left to lead, and she was facing the reality that everything she had believed in and fought for had been built on lies and manipulation. What reason did she have to keep living? When Zira let go of that cliff, I don't think it was just about refusing help from her enemy. I think it was about a broken lioness who had finally reached her breaking point. She had spent her entire life being betrayed by everyone she trusted, and she simply couldn't take any more pain. So, after looking at all of this evidence, I have to ask, was Zira really the villain of The Lion King 2? Or was she just a victim of so many traumas? Think about it. She was abused as a cub, manipulated by Scar, and then had to watch as everyone she loved either died or abandoned her. She never learned how to process trauma in a healthy way, so she passed that trauma onto her own cubs. She thought she was honoring true love when she was actually just following the commands of someone who was using her. Don't get me wrong, Zira definitely did some terrible things. She raised Kovu to be a killer. She attacked innocent lions, and she refused to make peace even when given the chance. But when you understand the full context of her life, you start to see that she wasn't born evil. She was created by a series of betrayals and traumas that no cub should ever have to endure. The real villains in Zira's story, I think, were her abusive father and Scar. Her father broke her spirit and taught her that love meant pain. Scar took advantage of her desperation and used her feelings to further his own goals. These two lions shaped Zira into the broken lioness we see in The Lion King 2. Maybe if Zira had grown up with loving parents, or at least a loving father, her whole story could have been different. And if she had met someone who genuinely cared about her instead of Scar, maybe she would have found the right path again. She could have been a protective mother instead of an abusive one. She could have been a wise leader instead of a bitter one. She could have found peace instead of spending her life seeking revenge. Does this excuse her actions? No, definitely not. Zira still made choices that hurt innocent lions, and she's responsible for those choices. But understanding her backstory helps us to see that she wasn't just a monster. She was a victim who became a perpetrator because she didn't know any other way to survive. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other Disney villains might have similar stories hidden beneath their evil actions? How many of them are just broken characters who never got the help that they needed? What do you think? After learning about all the trauma and betrayal Zira went through, do you see her differently now? Do you think she could have been saved if someone had shown her real love and kindness? Or was she too far gone by the time we meet her in The Lion King 2? And what about that theory about the strange lion being her father? Do you think that connection makes sense? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you're not sure yet, I got good news for you, because I already took a deep dive into that in another video explaining why the strange lion could be Zira's father. So if you haven't seen that one yet, make sure you go ahead and check it out. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you won't miss any other Lion King secrets, and I'll catch you next time.